Hi, this is Chris Hicks. It's currently September 5th, and I am here in Naples, Florida, with a kindred spirit, Mr. Ship Hoagland. Skip has been involved a lot longer than I have in really fighting for transparency, honesty, integrity in governments and a type of nonprofit called a 501c6. They're supposed to be business leagues. There's three different types the main types. One is a Convention and Visitors Bureau. One would be called a destination marketing organization, and a third type would be a chamber of commerce. They're supposed to be associations of businesses, but all too often they end up being very non-transparent, and they end up benefiting quite a bit from tax dollars without any public knowledge of what the money's getting used for or how they're using it. I'm able to be sitting here with Mr. Hoagland this morning because last week I was served with a restraining order, protective order, by one of our county commissioners that was upset, or I guess pushed over the edge, by me asking a question during breaks in the county commissioners meeting. As a result of that, kind of like communist China, I can't attend the county commissioners meetings anymore. I can't even attend Republican Party meetings at which I am a committeeman because he's the head of the party, and now I'm not allowed to be around him anywhere, so I've lost my voice and my vote across the line. So, Skip, I'm just beginning to see, I think, the tip of the iceberg of these things of protective orders. Why don't you talk a little bit, when it comes from government people, what are some of the things that you have experienced in the ways that government people have tried to stifle, limit, or stop your speech?
Well, it's outrageous, and this is where they'll begin. They'll begin on the restraining order, then they'll attempt to prevent you from speaking, public speaking as a citizen, interrupting you. This is a First Amendment violation. And then they'll go into extremes like they have with me, taking public monies and suing me with public monies for private defamation lawsuits.
Skip, you've been at this longer than I have, and but it all revolves around transparency, around a type of 501c6 nonprofit that is a business league that we would typically think of as a chamber of commerce, a Convention and Visitors Bureau, or a destination marketing organization. Why don't you talk just for a second about what are some of the key abuses that you've seen in these organizations that caused you to really take note and have a focus on their transparency and openness?
Well, they're getting, foremost, they're getting tax monies without full transparency. Nobody knows where the money's going and how it's spent. They are competing in the marketplace against for-profit companies, and they're just rife with cronyism because of their non-transparency and non-accountability and no performance metrics. And a lot of them are even operating with no contracts and no procurement. There's no fair bidding for other companies to actually bid for that DMO, destination marketing contract. So it's just riddled with problems and corruption.
One of the key abuses I've seen where I live is in the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They get $700,000 a year in taxpayer money, and they're completely run by government officials. Maybe just take a minute, of one or two examples of what you've run into that you consider to be just raft abuses in the Hilton Head area.
Well, I mean, it just gets back to it all gets back to transparency. Refusing FOIA requests. If you're using public monies, you got to comply to FOIA. They're even refusing members access to the financials under the Nonprofit Corporation Act, which is just, I mean, imagine that you're an owner of a company and the employees tell you you can't have access to the financials. This is bad enough.
We'll get a lot of this, Skip. In Ohio, our Convention and Visitors Bureau has in its IRS 990 tax filing documents it provides to the public enumerated, and they won't give them to me. So it's just another example of the kind of lack of transparency, or the fake transparency, some of these institutions try to have. So, Skip, you've been, as a result of this and getting sued and suing and trying to get transparency and things, one of the things I found very interesting when I searched for you online, if you search for Ship Hoagland online, you'll find lots of stuff that you've been involved with, is you have a pending Supreme Court case in South Carolina. It looks to me like you won at the lower level, and the cronies or the officials are taken to the Supreme Court to try to prevent transparency. Maybe talk a little bit about that lawsuit or some of the other lawsuits that you have been involved with.
Well, I started this fight trying to be nice, and then I soon learned that just asking for transparency was not going to be enough, and then I decided to go ahead and instead of being all talk and no action, I decided to do something about it, and that's with lawsuits. So I sent in a letter as a taxpayer requesting access to the Chamber of Commerce, CVB, and City DMO records, and they refused. And I went ahead and decided to file a FOIA lawsuit in the behalf of taxpayers demanding access to how our public monies were being used. They refused. I won in the lower court. They appealed it to the Supreme Court, and imagine now they're paying the lawyers all this money using tax monies and member monies, the very people they're refusing transparency to. They're using our money to pay the lawyers to fight. So that just tells you how guilty they are and how desperate they are to hide their records. And of course, I am now calling for more than just that. I'm calling for FBI, IRS investigations, and I'm calling for forensic audits, not just financial audits, but forensic audits, because cookie-cutter financial audits are not designed to catch fraud, embezzlement, etc. Now, I have also quoted other cases in the country, one actually going on in Berkeley, South Carolina Chamber, and also the Palm Beach CVB. You can Google Palm Beach CVB audit, and you can read why it's so paramount that we force these institutions to transparency.
It's interesting what you say. I was an accounting major in college, and people need to understand an auditor is not auditing for fraud. They're auditing to make sure the accounting rules were filed, not whether what was being done was legal or not. So that's where a forensic audit is very different than a regular financial audit that is being performed. Skip, before we move on and close our interview, just maybe take a minute to talk about some of the other lawsuits that you're involved with at this time.
Well, we have a number of lawsuits going and a number of words that probably a lot of people don't need to Google and search for. But I've got, of course, a FOIA lawsuit that I filed taking that to the Supreme Court in South Carolina. I have got a Nonprofit Corporation Act lawsuit that's being filed against the Hilton Head Chamber and the Beaufort Chamber and several others, which is demanding access to members. The FOIA is for taxpayers, the nonprofits for members. We have two First Amendment lawsuits that we're filing against two cities. We have a procurement lawsuit, which is fair bidding. We're filing against the town of Hilton Head for not putting this out for procurement and violating that law. And then we're defending two defamation lawsuits that are completely frivolous, and one using tax monies. And I got so many going, I can't even remember.
Well, we're going to have to draw to a close here, folks. I appreciate you taking a few minutes with me down here. And I know you got to get prepared for the hurricane that's coming this way. Yep. And but you know what? Why don't we work a deal, Skip? I think it's great what you're doing. I know that we've talked. How about you help me a little bit with some of your expertise, and I want to come to Hilton Head, and maybe we can do a video like this in Hilton Head and record some of the things, some of the places, some of the events, so that we can start really getting people like us that I think are honest patriots that believe in transparency, believe the public should come first, believe that government should serve the people, not enslave the people. Let's get together and we can start. Maybe we can't solve everything, Skip, but maybe we can start really making fantastic headway in this whole area of these 501c6 type operations that get special treatment, use our tax money in many cases, and want to hide stuff from us. They become, where I'm concerned, it's become a piggy bank for the politicians without any public oversight of that $700,000 a year. So thank you very much, Skip. You good with that idea? If we're going to hook up and I'll come up to Hilton Head and we'll film up there?
Absolutely. Let's do it.